Now, so long we have published bot, we have tested the performance of the NLP engine and everything, but how do we see how well the bot is performing after it has been deployed? So let's say while talking to the bot, users can type anything, right? It's a conversational UI. You cannot restrict the user that you have to say these things. You cannot do that. So today, if to a banking bot, I put a question uh, I want to request for leave. Okay, now the bot is not trained to handle this thing. Okay, because this is a banking bot, it has its defined use cases, but you cannot restrict the user not to say something which the bot does not understand. Okay, so if the user says this, the bot automatically comes back with a response like this: I'm unable to find an answer. Please try something else. Here are the tasks I can perform for you. Now, the first thing is, from where is this particular message coming? Because we have not trained from yesterday, nowhere I have trained the bot with this response. So when it does not understand something, from where is this response coming? And secondly, how do we track what is working and what is not working? Okay, so for doing that, okay, we come to the analyze section, from where we can see the analytics report that will display the performance of the bot after it has been published. But before going to the analyze report, let me just quickly tell you from where that particular message is coming when the intent is not identified. Okay, so in the natural language section under default conversation, there is a section called standard responses. Okay, so in standard responses, you will get to see there are different situations that are defined, and in those situations, what will be the response of the bot that is already trained on the platform. Okay, so one of these situations is when intent is not found, and under errors and warning, that has been defined. So if you go through the list over here, somewhere you will see that particular thing is there. That is, I cannot understand what you are saying. Okay, so this is not the task I can perform. So go through each of the page, and you will see somewhere that particular message is given. See, listing all FAQs not after not understanding your request, listing all actions after not, I'm unable to here. I'm unable to find an answer. Please try something else. Here are the tasks I can perform for you. That is what you are getting to see over here. I'm unable to find an answer. Please try something else. Here are the tasks I can perform for you, followed by the list of tasks. Okay, so you can see it has come from this particular this thing. Okay, if this is okay for you, that is fine, that the bot displays this. But there are enterprises who do not want this response to come up. Okay, so you can add a channel override of the response by adding a response, selecting a channel, and providing your own response over there. Or if you have a task to handle the situation, many enterprises, they have their own task. So if intent identification fails, they do not want this standard responses to come up. They want to trigger the task which has been defined to handle that situation. So maybe a dialogue task has been defined where the bot will guide the user that tell me what you want to do, and to give a choice, display, and depending on what the user selects, that particular task will be triggered. So if you want to trigger the execution of that kind of a task when intent identification fails, then you come to default dialog over here, and you can see over here, if user intent is not understood, then the default behavior of the bot is standard error message from standard responses. That is what you're getting to see over here. This is the standard error message from the standard responses. But if you want to trigger the execution of a task, select the second one, automatically run a dialog task, and select the task that you want to execute. You need to configure a dialog task before that. Okay, so design a dialog task and come and trigger the execution of that dialog task from here. So whenever intent identification fails, the bot will automatically trigger the execution of that particular dialog task. task. Okay, but these are very use case specific, depending on the requirement of the clients, or depending on the on your requirement, how you want the bot to handle the situation. You can do the configuration. Okay. So that was the first thing. And the second is, how do we see how well the bot is performing? Because here I am only talking, I can see the failure. But when end users are talking, as a developer, you are not present over there physically to see that whether this is working or whether that is working. Okay, so how do you see that? You can come over here to the Analyze section. So under Analyze section, there are two reports. One is the conversation flows and one is the metrics. Click on conversation flows first, and this will show you a visual representation of the journey of the user. So how the conversation took place between the bot and the end user. So what were the entire journey you can see over here, coming up over here. So you can see these are the different utterances which triggered this particular task, the check balance. You can click over here to see what was the utterances. So these are the different utterances that came from the users. These utterances can either come from the developers, or these utterances can come from the end users. So both of it is displayed in the conversation flows. If you want to see that how well the bot is performing when users are talking to the bot, those users can be developers, those users can be end users. So if you want a visual representation, you can come to the conversation flow and you can see, okay, if you click on any one of these nodes, it will show you the journey of the user. So once this intent had been identified, the next was the account ID over here. If you want to see what were the different account IDs given by the user, you can see these were the account IDs that were given by the user. If you click here, what was the next node that got executed? So you can see in some places it was make confirm payment, in some places make payment task because of that particular sub dialog node when I said yes, and some places when the account ID was incorrect due to that API call failure, it came up with the invalid message. So you can see the alternate journeys that had been triggered. You can also see the execution of the service node before this particular next node was executed. Okay, so you can see here how the service node also got executed. Okay, so this way you can see it. So what was not handled, what was the failure? So these are the different things that had resulted in a failure. Out of this, one has come from the actual utterance. So if you click on that, it will show you in the chat history where exactly the user had given that utterance and what was the bot response. So whenever you look into any of these utterances, you can click and you can see the chat history, which will show you the entire chat before and after the user had given that utterance, and that utterance will be highlighted. Okay, so you can see the entire journey of the conversation between the bot and the user, what FAQs we had given. So you can see you can click on this black button and see what are the different FAQs. Okay, there was one FAQ that was not handled. What was it? Okay, so this was the FAQ when we made those nodes mandatory. You can click here and you can see when this FAQ was given, this was the response of the bot. Okay, so this way you can see the entire visual journey of the utterances of the between the bot and the user from the conversation flows.